This shows you as heavy as I was.
It's called acanthosis.
18+% of our children right now are obese.
How loud are you? About 280.
If you go with the flow in America today, you will end up overweight or obese, as 2/3 of Americans do.
I don't want to be fat for the rest of my life. I've got diabetes,
Sleep apnea.
high blood pressure.
I get dizzy when I get up.
Everything's hurting now.
You don't crave broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac.
We have built a cheap food model, and that's the one we're dealing with right now.
It's so hard to combat against what the TV's telling you about your kids.
The kind of food that we eat is the kind that's most profitable.
Local and regional foods taste better.
The weight of the nation is out of control, but we can fix that.
How you like the market?
Market mean everything for this neighborhood.
We have got to come together as a country and really make this a priority.
As long as we stick together, that's what it's about.
It's not only health, it's about survival and well-being of the United States as a nation.
The reason we have government in the first place is to solve problems collectively that we can't solve individually.
If we don't now take this as a really serious, urgent national priority, we are, all of us individually and as a nation, going to pay a really serious price.
We're in the midst of an epidemic of childhood obesity, with childhood obesity rates tripling in just a generation. Children who are obese are much more likely to become obese as adults, but the health problems that obese children have start right then.
The evidence is incontrovertible that children who are obese are at greater risk for diabetes, later hypertension and heart disease, asthma, a variety of other health problems.
If you were told, well, your child is at risk for cancer, that would get your attention. If you were told, well, your child is at risk for some sort of brain disease, that would get your attention. Well, obesity ought to be on that list.
Often parents feel like they're failures. They're not doing a good enough job to get their kids to eat well. And it's important for them to just understand that there are all these forces working against them.
Your children are about to enter a world where they will be besieged by an industry that wants them to eat more. They will be thrust into a culture that fosters eating at every hour of the day, around every corner of every street that they go on. It will be very important to help protect them against those influences, to buffer them from it, to try to make the environment safer for your children.
I'm afraid because of the rising obesity prevalence and its related cardiometabolic disorders and side effects and adverse effects, that this is probably going to be the first generation of children who are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
I've struggled with my weight all my life.
He's missing out on a lot of things. He's missing out on dating, just going outside, and he can't walk far. He says, it doesn't bother me. Oh, he's so full of crap. If this kid was 160 pounds, there'd be no stopping him. He'd have the world by the balls.
When I walk into a room, people don't look at me. They look at my size, and they don't want to get to know me. Or like even in school, when I go into class, I sit in the back of the classroom, try to be as low-key as possible. Inside me, I do have an urge to go do everything, see everything, and be amazing, but being fat can hold you back.
Increasingly, we're aware that obese children have many of the metabolic characteristics of an obese 25-year-old. They have elevated insulins, they have risk of becoming diabetic, their blood lipids are disturbed.
Okay, lift your arm.
It's important for parents to know that there are pretty significant risk factors for overweight and obesity in childhood. It's not just about their physical appearance, and we shouldn't be interested in solving the problem because of the way we think a child looks. It's much more important than that. There are pretty significant side effects from being overweight and obese in childhood. If we don't do something to prevent it, it's going to be full-on chronic liver disease or heart disease by the time they're in their mid-30s.
We don't hear and look at what's going on under the skin. But biology is telling us that the health impacts of obesity are screaming inside. They're not silent. We just don't hear them.
That looks like about a quarter of a plate. So last one is.
How about 3?
Yeah.
Right there. We ignore the early years at our peril if we want to do something about conquering this growing epidemic of obesity in our society.
1, 2. You guys getting the pattern? 4. Out, heel down, and flex toe down.
My name is Sophia Scarpone. I'm 14 and a half. I'm 5'5" 1/4", and I weigh 191 pounds. Every day I go out there, probably the first thing they notice is that person's fat. I think that definitely builds a whole wall from them seeing who I actually am and what I actually love doing and all my different, talents. I would like to dance, but it's not realistic if I don't lose the weight. It's holding me back in every way from trying to pursue what I love doing. I've always loved performing, and just being able to have everybody just focus on you for that 1 second. Just this feeling of being the best.
She was actually very petite, and it wasn't until I would say she was about 8 or 9 years old that I started to see a growth spurt and weight gain. It has been difficult, and I've seen how she has struggled and suffered from, the comments of her classmates and friends.
My parents, they do definitely care about my weight, so they're always like, oh, Sophia, don't eat this, don't eat that. Only one portion. If you don't want to finish it all, you can bring it home. It's constant, It does definitely get very annoying.
Small portion for you too.
Like this. Sophia, your plate.
I've been trying to help Sophia on my own. I really think that she needs professional help and our help as a family.
Do I just that's some kilos.
Shoot. Oh, she's getting big.
So here's her BMI chart. So this is where she was a year and a half ago, and this is where she is today. So she's not even just following along, she's actually increasing. So she's gained 12 kilos over the last 18 months.
Wow.
Okay? So that's a lot of weight.
Yes.
Okay, more than it should be. So you see this stuff here? Okay, you see how it's darker?
Yeah.
It's called acanthosis. This is insulin working on the skin.
Oh, really?
You know what diabetes is? You've heard of that? So diabetes is high blood sugar, right? That's bad for you. Okay, it can kill you.
It definitely was a wake-up call. I mean, I felt really shocked because I believed that even though I was at a higher weight, I would still be healthy because of the activities that I've been doing. And I thought that when he said about my insulin being high, I was like, oh my God, because I didn't think that I would be going through this.
Now the question is, why is her insulin high? Possibly genetic, possibly stress and lack of sleep. So there are a lot of things that are tied up in this high insulin. So sugar's where you start, okay? So
estimates are that 1 in 3 children born in the year 2000 will develop diabetes sometime in their lifetime. And this is a direct consequence of the obesity epidemic, and emphasizes that unless we're able to control this epidemic, we're going to have an abundance of chronic disease and disability.
We never thought that type 2 diabetes would occur in 10 or 12-year-olds, but now it's not uncommon at all to see that. So these are serious consequences, and the tendency to dismiss this, or to perhaps even see it in some cultures as a norm, is getting in the way of recognizing this as a real public health emergency.
Once there was these girls, they were teasing me. They call me fat and they just say you're ugly. That's rude to me and I'm very sad about that.
I just want Tiara to be content with her, the person who she is, you know, mentally. I want her physically healthy and, you know, I want her emotionally healthy. I'm just concerned about her health. It is such a young age. You know, you have young kids, you know, developing diabetes and, you know, certain issues. And that's where my concern comes in.
So we're gonna go to this room back here, and I want you guys to just make yourself comfortable. Tiara's mother is exceptional. She noticed a big increase in Tiara's weight and was motivated enough to seek out the support of our program. You've probably seen this before. We do her height for age and her weight for age. Let's make believe we took 100 8-year-olds and lined them up by how much they weighed. She's about 97th in line. So the very first thing we do in our program is, it's almost detective work, is try to find out what has led to the point where we are seeing patients referred to us. Tiara's case was very interesting. Right around the age of 4 or 5 years of age, she had a big increase in her body mass index, a big spike in weight gain. And for us, the very first visit is a lot of questions to try to get a sense of what happened. Tiara, do you have TV in your room?
Yeah.
You do? Do you watch it before you go to sleep at night?
I watch it every night.
You watch it every night.
I was trying to do is just completely eliminate TV during the week, during the school week, but that did not work with Tiara.
Having a television in the bedroom has been found to be associated with obesity. The popular belief before was that if children are watching more TV, they're more likely to be couch potatoes. They're not being physically active. But more and more research is showing actually that children are exposed to pretty toxic advertising, pretty significant food advertising that does not include fruit and vegetable advertising. It's all high sugary beverages, high sugar cereals, and that it really is through the content of this advertising that television might be related to weight gain and obesity in children.
It's a breakfast cereal!
Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids! Somebody catch these lucky charms! Got 'em! Whoa, ooh, there are 5 new charms! Something magical is happening at McDonald's. They're so tasty!
Kellogg's Fruit Loop cereal, part of this balanced breakfast.
Ask your parents to go to chuckycheese.com to play it.
Dozen marked boxes of Kellogg's cereal. With the Airheads Kung Fu Panda 2 6-packs.
There's a very large research literature on the effects of food marketing directed at kids, and I think it can be distilled into 3 words. It's powerful, it's pernicious, and it's predatory. And these are very strong words, but I think absolutely warranted by the deplorable environment that's created to food marketing.
About $1.5 billion a year is spent by industry on the marketing of food products to children. Those foods are not the healthiest foods for children.
The worst foods are the ones that get marketed most aggressively, especially to children. Kids develop brand loyalty very early in life for things like certain types of sugared beverages or certain types of fast foods.
Studies show that food marketing affects children's food preferences, food choices, their diets, and their health. It shapes what they want to eat, what they're willing to eat. And unfortunately today, it shapes what they want to eat into foods that will kill them, that will give them heart disease, cancer, and diabetes.
Delicious. Yummy part of this nutritious breakfast.
It is the advertising which drives the food supply, which drives the likelihood of obesity in children that watch a lot of television.
The First Amendment doesn't give companies a right to deceive children or to undermine their health. It doesn't give them the right to promote unhealthy products to children. Children who don't fully understand what marketing is.
Chocolatey. Speaking of little pieces.
There's some suggestion that television ads for foods has gone down relative to the advertising that's available on TV. That doesn't mean that food marketing has gone down. It means that, indeed, marketers are moving to other venues.
And even though online advertising expenditures is still a relatively small part of overall advertising, we're about to see an explosion of advertising.
It's clear that public health and industry interests differ here. Industry's interest is in protecting the status quo because children are such valuable customers. There's almost perfect overlap between the worst nutrition cereals and the ones that are marketed most aggressively to children. What I imagine you'll hear in the subsequent talks is that here's a long list of positive changes that the industry has made.
What I plan to do today is to show how self-regulation is meeting and responding to IOM's recommendations. The goal was to shift the mix of advertising to kids so it included healthier products. Now, 84% of cereals our participants advertise to kids contain no more than 10 grams of sugar per serving. And of course, it's not just about the sugar. It's also about nutritional density, and that's improving too. All of General Mills' Big G cereals contain at least 8 grams of whole grains. And last year, Kellogg's also included whole grains in 2 of its iconic cereals. Further, all of the cereals the participants advertise to kids include many essential vitamins and nutrients, and they're usually consumed with milk.
Part of this good breakfast. Crave those crazy squares.
Food marketing to kids is handled almost exclusively through self-regulation. The companies themselves define what is unhealthy food. For example, Kellogg says Frosted Flakes are healthy, or General Mills thinks that some of their sugary fruit snacks are healthy foods, which are clearly junk food.
The best fruit taste this side of the Milky Way.
While the boxes and the names still may be goofy but charming, what's inside the box has changed.
Recently, you might have noticed that a lot of cereals that you would have thought of being more like a dessert than a breakfast food are starting to really claim that they are in fact quite healthy. So what you'll see are lots of claims, like here on Reese's Puffs, that they're whole grain. And here on the Corn Pops, they are a good source of fiber, or Cocoa Krispies are a good source of vitamin D. So it's really confusing to the consumer to try to identify which are the healthy versus unhealthy cereals for their families.
Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks have 3 grams of fiber in every yummy bowl. They're the cereals your kids love and the fiber their tummies love. Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks, an oh-so-good source of fiber.
I have a sense of a bit of a trap in the we're getting better and better instead of getting good.
Our charge is to accelerate progress in the reduction of childhood obesity. And we've heard one argument which says, on the food issue at least, you can't really accelerate progress unless you regulate. And I'm hearing a counter argument that no, you don't need regulation. We can do this voluntarily. And what I'm not hearing is, what will it take to accelerate progress?
I understand you've gathered here in Washington this week to discuss some of the most pressing issues that your industry faces. Now, I know you're all familiar with the statistics here, how childhood obesity rates have tripled over the past 3 decades, and that's really where all of you come in. That it's okay to eat unhealthy foods because they're endorsed by the cartoon characters our children love and the celebrities our teenagers look up to. So let's be clear. It's not enough just to limit ads for foods that aren't healthy. It's going to be so critical to increase marketing for foods that are healthy.
So we went to Congress and worked with Senator Harkin to require the Federal Trade Commission and a number of other federal agencies to develop one consistent set of nutrition standards, a set of nutrition standards developed by experts, not by advertisers. Once they came out as draft standards and we saw how much pushback there was from the food companies, then I realized what a really good idea it was.
These subcommittees will come to order. I'm pleased today to be holding a joint hearing on such an important issue.
Clearly, the IWG's initial proposal went way too far. Frankly, we'd like to find out what you have been cooking up in the kitchen. Right now, I'm not sure. I like the smell of it. Mr. Vladeck, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
I'm David Vladeck, Director of the Federal Trade Commission's Bureau of Consumer Protection. Parents don't have an easy task when it comes to getting their kids to eat healthier foods. The FTC is committed to working with its sister agencies and all stakeholders to make that burden on parents less daunting.
Before coming to CDC, I was a professor of pediatrics at Tufts University School of Medicine in Boston, and I'm a prior president of the Obesity Society and prior president of the American Society for Clinical Nutrition. The more television a child watches, the more likely they are to consume foods while watching television, and those foods are more likely to be the foods that are advertised on television.
We don't need the federal government dictating which foods can be marketed to children.
The government should stop pretending after all these decades that it has the answers, because it does not.
So rather than being attacked for government intrusion or other such nonsense, we should be saying thank you, because I think your report helps all of us as parents and all of us as a country.
I am Dan Jaffe, Executive Vice President of the Association of National Advertisers. The IWG, in effect, is attempting to re-engineer the American diet by declaring war on many healthy products. These guidelines need to be formally withdrawn and returned to the drawing board.
The food manufacturers and advertisers are not going to change what has been working for them. because what has been working for them is adding to their profits.
The overwhelming majority of products marketed to children are still of poor nutritional value. Industry doesn't even want a compromise. They want Congress to step in and kill the interagency work group.
We think that this is a very radical proposal. We don't think that that's hype. We just think that's the fact.
They were so unhappy to have a strong set of nutrition standards proposed by these federal agencies because they want to look like they're limiting junk food marketing without really having to do it.
The IWG should completely withdraw these recommendations and do what they were instructed to do by Congress: conduct a study and report the findings to Congress.
It's just hard to explain to a little girl why she's developing so fast and why she's not like the other kids. It's always been a stigma like, that'll never be my kid. But when it happens to you, it's almost like, it's kind of like life-changing. You understand that sometimes it's not a choice to be the way you are.
For her, it's been definitely a challenge. A lot of the kids were just really mean to her, like normal kids would be, you know, just taunting and teasing her, you know. We've always instilled in her that she's beautiful and she's smart, and you're not supposed to let anybody create your self-worth. Let's see if I can race you on your scooter.
Race me?
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna run.
Hang on,
You go. Ready? Okay.
And
Ready? Thanks. Go.
I'm winning, I'm winning.
Of course you're gonna win. You got a scooter. I don't want anything to weigh her down. I just want her to be comfortable in her skin.
I totally rocked it.
She's already a positive person. She's very optimistic. She's very outgoing. So just want to keep that going.
Ready? There you go. You really gotta move your body back and forth.
This place is wonderful for Taya.
There you go. There you go.
They make exercise fun and exciting.
We both didn't grow up knowing how to eat correctly.
Coming here, the dietitian kind of show us what to look for. We go by the calories and the sugars.
Just do a little bit more research on what we give her. Seeing other kids who are in the same struggle as she is, I think that really helps to have peers who are not judging her. I'm still gonna talk to Mom about letting you walk home possibly from school. I think it's a good idea because I think it'll be good exercise for you.
Okay.
You know, to things in besides the P's fitness.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you too.
Have a good day.
Okay.
I take pride in seeing my baby enjoy life, seeing her healthy, and we just want her to be the best Taya she can be. And I just want her to look back and say, yes, Mom and Dad, you did put in the effort and hard work, and you did try. I just never want her to feel like we didn't try.
Yep.
You know?
All right.
As the childhood obesity epidemic has unfolded, it has forced a lot of people to really look carefully at the cafeteria to see how it has changed. Because there is a commercial interest, meaning that the cafeteria needs to be self-supporting, they have really been kind of put in a corner where they need to figure out a way to sell the most product to the students. And unfortunately, what they've done is really come to mimic a food court you might see in a shopping mall. So a lot of school cafeterias will have stations set up where children can buy chicken nuggets and French fries and, hot dogs and pizza. And all the typical foods that we think of as really being fast food and unhealthy food.
There are a lot of what people call competitive foods because they compete with the school lunch program. They undermine the school lunch program because if you can sell Ho-Hos and chips and Gatorade in competition with, a grilled chicken patty on a whole wheat bun with a fruit or a vegetable, it's hard for that healthy school meal to compete.
Our school cafeterias are set up for efficiency. How do we get as many kids through the system as quick as possible?
They don't have good food, they don't have enough time to eat. It's pretty dismal, actually.
We see more attention problems, behavior problems, and just exhaustion because they're not well fed.
I do not eat the school lunch. If I eat the food on a regular basis here, I gain weight.
I think sometimes as organizations we've looked at things that go fast. I mean, we have fast turnarounds, we have fast recess, fast lunch, and maybe we just need to slow it down a little and look at the questions that we're asking ourselves about our kids' health and nutrition.
I think really what we serve them is more convenience for our central kitchen to mass produce it and get it out, and where we just have to keep it warm.
Today we're serving chicken strips. Each student gets 3 chicken strips, a third cup of fresh frozen broccoli, and an ounce of sharp cheddar shredded cheese.
The chicken nuggets are bouncy and the pizzas takes 10 napkins to wipe off the grease, so I don't like them.
I don't eat school lunches because they're pretty disgusting. Mass produced and that sort of, I don't think that's good. These school lunches are good.
The system that we currently have is called a pre-pack system. It's very efficient. It's built on the Industrial Revolution model where people stand in a line and they pack, the 3 chicken nuggets, and then they pack a handful of fries, and then in a different line they pack in orange slices and then vegetables and things like that, so kids can grab those and eat with their hands on a daily basis.
They're responsible for my child when he is there. And so they're responsible that they're giving him real food, that if they're filling his body full of things, they should be filling his body full of real food.
And parents in Madison have been complaining about this at least a dozen years.
My son comes home and says, "Oh, I had fizz edibles and chocolate milk for lunch." Like, what the heck is a fizz edible? He tried to explain it to us, and we're like, is it like a potato chip? Well, sorta. Is it like he couldn't, still don't know what it is.
It's a goldfish cracker.
It is?
Yes.
Is it really? That's not food.
We need to rethink what is the most effective methodology to providing those meals to our kids, that pre-pack system, which it probably isn't anymore.
I can imagine it's hard to balance all of those things, right? You have this pot of money, and you have this thing you need to do. And I don't think it's easy. I can't imagine, how it is that they will make that switch. But I know others have done it, and so I expect it. I expect that they will find, see the best interest of our kids, and they won't take the shortcuts. They'll find a way to get fresh food to our kids because that's their job.
Food service in general for K-12 education is lowly underfunded for what expectations need to be for what we're feeding our kids. We're painted into a corner of pouring more money into food service and competing with educational programs. And the answer, unfortunately, is too easy at the end of the day. We're not going to take resources out of the hands of kids in learning to provide them a different food product.
I'm a special assistant to the president at the Domestic Policy Council, and my role is to coordinate and facilitate the development of administration policy on a number of issues, including childhood obesity and the nutrition programs as well. The president will shortly be signing into law legislation that, for the first time ever, it will give the Secretary of Agriculture the authority to set nutrition standards for all foods regularly sold in school during the school day, which hopefully will really change the food landscape within schools and really empower parents who release their children into this environment to know that when they're there, they will have good food to eat.
Harry Truman said that nothing is more important in our national life than the welfare of our children, and proper nourishment comes first in attaining this welfare.
All children should have the basic nutrition they need to learn and grow and to pursue their dreams.
The Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act is the strongest child nutrition reauthorization I think Congress has come up with in decades. It invests more money into the school lunch and other child nutrition programs than ever before.
The Child Nutrition Reauthorization Bill builds on several reports from the Institute of Medicine, which have made recommendations about what the composition of those foods should be.
That act does a great job sort of moving us to the next level in terms of nutrition.
Those foods are likely to be lower in fat, sugar, and salt.
Parents have a right to expect that their kids will be served fresh, healthy food that meets high nutritional standards.
Congress released a new spending bill last night that changes President Obama's plans to make school lunches healthier. The new bill keeps French fries on the menu at school. It delays a requirement to boost whole grains, and it calls the tomato paste on pizzas a vegetable.
Under the current school lunch regulations, pizza is classified as a vegetable.
The Obama administration recently tried to change that rule, but a new spending bill blocked new tomato paste regulations and kept pizza in the vegetable category.
Changes were requested by food companies that make frozen pizzas and by potato growers.
Nothing scares potato lobbyists more than Michelle Obama-like health freaks who might prevent them from putting French fries on school lunch trays every single day.
It's not democracy, it's DiGiorno.
So Tiara, I'm gonna have you come up here, come up on the table. Can you look all the way up, Tiara? She has this kind of dark ring around her neck, and it's an indication she might have early signs of what's called insulin resistance, where her body can't handle the insulin very well. We need to figure out what she's eating that might be affecting her blood sugar so that we can actually start working more specifically on changes in her diet to bring down the sugar content. Tara, what do you usually drink at home?
Orange juice, apple juice.
Okay. Any soda? Drink any soda?
Yeah, I used to.
You used to. And then what happened?
Now she told me to stop drinking soda.
Good. That is one thing you'll hear from a lot of us today is no soda. It's not so difficult to convince a family that soda really has no nutritional benefits. It's harder to try to convince families that juice can have almost exactly the same sugar content as a glass of soda.
We're substituting juice for soda in so many different venues. Bill Clinton went to the soft drink industry to get them to pull sodas from elementary schools, and the soda industry agreed. And they have done that for the most part around the country. But why did they agree to that? The reason? Because the soda companies also own the juice and sports drink companies, and those are not included in the deal. So the only thing that's changed is that they've changed the vending machine.
48% of people's sugar consumption comes from sugar-sweetened beverages.
And those calories are half of what has been the increase in calories in the U.S. in the last 20, 30 years.
We need to reduce the sugar, do what we can to change people's taste buds to the degree that they will accept products with less sugar in it.
New Kool-Aid Fun Fit.
In 2010, children ages 2 to 5 saw almost as many ads for 5-Hour Energy drink as they did for Capri Sun. Teens are targeted by energy drinks, flavored waters, and sports drinks. The
The American Academy of Pediatrics states that energy drinks should never be consumed by children or adolescents.
So they're intentionally going contrary to what medical advice is, that kids shouldn't be drinking these, but they're marketing them more to kids than they are to grown-ups.
If parents are going to help their children develop healthy eating habits and try to promote a healthy weight, they need to stop being undermined by the food industry, which is marketing the worst products directly to kids.
We talked about sugars, because if you drink a lot of sugar, that sugar turns into what?
Fat.
Yeah, which is very, very unhealthy for the body. And so I have a little demonstration here. If I can have some of the volunteers come up and help me with this. We have natural orange juice. We have a Red Bull. We have a Starbucks Frappuccino. So out of those, which one has the most sugar?
Starbucks.
The Starbucks. Okay. How many teaspoons do you guys think it has?
5.
Keep going.
12.
Keep going.
15.
Keep going.
20.
25. 25 teaspoons, 100 grams of sugar. And the Starbucks Frappuccino, the Coke and the Sprite have 17 teaspoons. The chocolate milk has 16. The orange juice has 10 teaspoons. A lot of parents think juice is good for my kids. It has vitamin C. It has a little sprinkle of vitamin C, but it has a ton of sugar in it. If you're only going to remember one thing from today, is to just stop drinking juice, stop drinking soda. You guys don't need it.
Changing what we eat and drink, making it easier to do the healthy things, that's the sweet spot for public health.
We have to change for children what good looks like.
We know physical activity for all Americans of every age has gone down over the last 20, 30 years. And we know kids don't do physical activity. And we know at a certain age, girls just seem to stop moving much at all.
In young children, the neuromuscular development is so compromised when you see a toddler sitting for hour upon hour throughout the course of the day. We're seeing 4, 6, 8 hours a day engaged in sedentary behavior. And the likelihood of them then engaging in a sport and becoming physically active as they get into elementary school is very compromised.
My daughter got a computer, and she's on the computer, and she's communicating with her friends on the computer, so that's sitting in one spot. Actually, she has a computer, and she has a television. And then she'll eat in front of the computer and the television, and that could be my fault.
It feels like I have to get a crowbar to get my kids off the couch, sometimes on the weekends.
We have to physically push him out the door, make him go out there against his will to play.
You know, when's the last time you've seen kids playing wiffle ball or kickball, street hockey, anywhere? This kid never goes out. He's in all the time. He's in front of his computer or his TV. We tried every sport in the book to get Kaylin up and moving. Right now, where kids socialize is online, through Facebook, on games. I mean, his friend time is sitting in a chair with his headset playing a video game. I mean, this kid has been on basketball teams, he's been on baseball teams, he's had swimming lessons, he's been on soccer leagues, he had fencing lessons, I honestly, I forgot about that. Yeah, oh yeah. We have tried it all. And he did not find something that he really, baseball, he did not find anything that he connected to.
You'd never want to hear the news that things are less than optimal in your child's health.
There you go. Okay, heels against the wall. And try to push your belly button backwards. Look straight ahead.
That's good. Slide down a little bit towards your feet. Okay, Kayla, it's important that you stay very still now for me.
Kaylin was always a kid that would get a little wider, and then you get taller, and then you get wider, and you get taller. And there was a point that he wasn't keeping up with that same pattern.
To have some of those tests come back and show that, yes, you know, his cholesterol is elevated and his triglycerides are elevated. You know, that's hard. I mean, that's hard to take because you think, well, those are adult problems. I mean, you know, I have high triglycerides and, you know, spotty cholesterol.
Just coming to the level of your knees now, Kaylin. 2 minutes to go. You're doing a great job.
He's a kid. He shouldn't be having these kinds of issues.
We are almost done. Hang in there.
The BMI graph here, Kaylin, we'd really like to be below the 85th percentile, which would really be our goal, to kind of say now we're in this healthy range.
"30 or 40 years ago, most children were able to walk to school. Today, less than 20% of children walk to school."
According to the Women's Sports Foundation, in the last 35 years, the physical education system for children has crumbled. PE is no longer mandatory in most states. Many parents are afraid to send kids outside for unsupervised play, so they end up staring at TV and computer screens.
It turns out that only 5 states actually require physical education. So more and more schools are making PE optional.
All across the country, starting a number of years ago, schools began to drop PE. And in fact, today, only 1 out of 6 schools in the United States require PE at least 3 days a week.
Many of us remember growing up in school settings where we had to change into our gym uniforms 3, 4 times, 5 times a week. That there's been a pretty significant change in that.
In a recent speech, President Kennedy said he was afraid we were getting to be a nation of spectators, and we prefer to look instead of play, ride instead of walk.
I welcome this opportunity to speak to the people of America about a subject which I believe to be most important, and that is the subject of physical fitness. A country is as strong, really, as its citizens, with the physical development of their children, with the participation in the vigorous life, and then also, as their children get older, inculcate into them a desire to maintain that vigor.
With the cooperation of 19 leading educational and medical organizations, the President's Council has developed a recommended basic physical fitness program for the nation's schools.
Texas has the 6th highest rate of obesity in children. We're the 12th basically fattest state in the country, and that has consequences. It's pretty well documented in the state of Texas, at least. If our population continues the way it's going, by 2025, private employers will incur an additional $30+ billion a year in health care costs. I would argue, and this report I think would argue, that PE is one of the smartest investments this state can make. Prevention is always, always, always cheaper than medicine.
The bill that I had filed was a K through 12 physical education daily. I couldn't pass that bill. You cannot imagine the obstacles that we faced. I mean, it was a lot of resistance from the administrators who their strongest argument was that the focus needed to be on academic instruction.
There's a tension. Principals will say, well, I can't increase the number of phys ed classes because I've got to get the math and reading scores up. That's really misguided. First off, even if you don't increase the number of hours that kids are spending in phys ed, you can improve the quality of the physical education.
Do you think today, if you were to come back and file a new PE bill, and I'm sort of pushing on this because I went to 2 schools yesterday, I went to 2 middle schools, they have populations of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who are already overweight. And only 8% of senior girls are passing, 9% of the boys, and they have fallen off the cliff.
Well, our agenda was you get the kids
exercising. You make sure that we've got an atmosphere, a structure, and a culture where they're getting exercise every day. And then it's about calories in, calories out.
We're still trying to get it re-implemented in high schools.
From the economic perspective, which is what obviously is my focus, if we have a trend line going in the wrong direction, more obesity, more overweight, fewer kids able to pass a fitness gram, then I would say to the legislature, we're going to have a productivity crisis.
Last one. That's the hard work. Martial fusion, short, cardio workout.
I put in some money as comptroller in my last 4 years to get kids to have a fitness grant so that they would do PE and then they would be measured to see what worked.
There's been considerable research that shows that physical exercise improves brain development for learning.
Kids are getting physical activity on most or all days. They're going to learn better in class. If kids aren't bouncing up and down in gym, they're going to be bouncing off the walls in class.
You all have been working really hard. You've got daily PE here. What improvements, if any, are you seeing in these kids?
Total improvement. I mean, the kids understand and have become, I would say, accountable for their own level of fitness.
I'm just thrilled to see them running. I love the Got Sweat shirts. I think that's all fantastic. My belief is that if you give kids the opportunity, lifetime, to do PE, you will, in fact, get your money back by reductions in health care.
No, eighth grade.
Eighth grade.
What are you doing in gym these days? Oh, we did gym for about 20 minutes. It was just
We knew about the pediatric fitness clinic at the University of Wisconsin. Our pediatrician gave us her blessing, and so we decided, let's give this a try and see what they have to offer.
What did you do yesterday? I was on my elliptical for 20 minutes, I think.
Kalen was making his own goal about what he wanted to do fitness-wise, and he really connected with the staff, so he wanted to go there. He wanted to do their after-school workout time. He was really engaged in what they were doing. We've been very happy to have a team of people that can help him, so that he can figure out this for himself about how he wants to be a healthy young man.
Kalen's found ultimate frisbee after school and has really latched onto that as something that he enjoys. Having him be more aware that he needs to be more active, that there's a direct connection between activity level and health, seem to be on the right trajectory.
Okay, Kalen, come on up and take a look. Now, one of the most important values on here for us is called the percent body fat. That tells you what percentage of your body weight is fat. Most important to us is how much muscle is there and how much fat is there. The scan that's on the screen now, Kalen, is when you were 11 years old, 8/6/2009. When we first met you, we did your first scan. The one I hold in my hand is the one that we did today. Let's take a look at some of the changes. This is your muscle. Total lean mass back then, 28347 before. Let's look at today. 39517.
That's great.
Huge increase in muscle mass. Let's take a look at the percent fat mass. Our goal was that it didn't go up.
Yeah.
Remember that? 36.2, 34.5.
Yay.
Not only did it not go up, it went down. It's a nice drop.
Wow.
So the relationship between muscle and fat is getting better and better.
When Kalen saw all the improvements on the different measures, seeing the look on his face, that was great.
Yeah.
You know, it's tangible. It's something that we can point to and say, The things that you are doing are having a direct effect on your health.
I mean, this is really good news.
That's the kind of thing that motivates a teenager in a way that mom saying, you need to turn off the television and go outside never will. He's got some ways to go to get his cholesterol and triglycerides where we want him to be, but there's so many things that we see every day where he's doing what we're hoping for, and he feels good about it. That's what counts.
I would encourage anybody who's in a similar situation, if they have the opportunity to take advantage of a resource like that, to do it.
Tiara, she lost weight and she's more active at home. She's not watching as much TV. I tell her, we don't say can't. We don't say I can't do this. It may be difficult, but if one person has done it, you can do it too. I'm involved and I want to educate my daughter. I think it's harder for Tiara because I think she has the knowledge but not the understanding. You know, she knows that there's a issue with her health, but she doesn't understand the long-term effects of it. And that's fine for right now. As long as she knows and I can just say to her, you know, Tiara, healthy, unhealthy, that's good enough for me.
The child hasn't created the environment in which he or she is living. The child hasn't grown the foods or marketed the foods or decided which aspects of the sort of food distribution system are going to be, you know, active in their community. The child doesn't decide where parks will be situated. The child doesn't decide how much education they're going to be able to get about nutrition and active living, you know, in their school system. The obesity crisis is a moral challenge for us as a society, but fundamentally at the root of it is the question of what kind of society are we? And what kind of environments do we owe all of our children?
We've got to develop a multi-sectoral, multi-component program that addresses sugar drinks, that addresses physical activity, that addresses physical education in schools.
Government has a responsibility to act, but they're not the whole answer. We also need companies to step up, to reformulate their products, to change their marketing practices, to make healthy options available in restaurants. Families have a responsibility. We all share in this responsibility and all need to do our part.
Obesity will crush the United States and we will fade in the rear view mirror in oblivion. We could have done something different. We should have done something different. And we lacked the moral fiber and love for our children to do the right thing.
It is much better to prevent these problems than to try to fix them later. To wait, to not intervene early, and to deal with problems after the fact is basically sentencing some part of the population to a less healthy and shorter life.
What a tragedy. After all of these years of building up our health care in a circumstance where people are saved from premature disability and death, we could turn that all around. We could lose all of those gains. It could hardly be more serious than when you think about it in those terms. Do you want your children and your grandchildren to inherit a society where their hopes for a long and healthy life are not even as good as yours were? That can't be the right thing to do.
We're simply not genetically programmed to turn down calories when they're in front of us.
Back in the day, when there wasn't a lot of food available to us and we were presented with a large animal, we needed to consume as much of it as we possibly could over a short period of time.
We're living in an environment in which it's possible to eat yourself into obesity without any physical activity other than dialing the cell phone. Unlimited number of calories.
My food addictions.
McDonald's. Pizza with extra cheese. Fried chicken. Fast food.
I like it all.
It's the policies that promote the way our communities are designed, that promote cheaper food.
Anytime I want fast food, I just stand here and go like,
What degree of free will do people really have if by just knowing someone's zip code, you can pretty well predict their BMI?
It would cost the industry about $36 to $40 billion if we reduced our caloric intake by 100 calories.
The triple whopper is 1,140 calories.
Most farmers don't view what they grow as food, but as a commodity that's going to go into high fructose corn syrup.
Part of it is, it's the least risky thing to do. All that corn is insured.
We can do something about this, but it's going to take national recognition that this is a priority.